For your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the speed metal kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And now, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Post-game reaction time. Auburn versus Michigan in the Players Era Tournament. Game 2 for both teams. One team was ready. One team was not. We're going to talk about the score, the stats, and the storylines. All that's coming up right now. War Eagle, everybody, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we discuss, share the Auburn experience. The Auburn experience to us is all about a few things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easy way to say it, though, if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing this evening on another post-game reaction show, stream 2 of this event. Game 2 for Auburn men's basketball. We're talking about Auburn versus Michigan, and what a rough one. The Michigan Wolverines take down the Auburn Tigers by the score of 102-72, and we got to figure out what happened here. There's probably some obviously glaring things there that we can discuss. We'll get to all those different things. Our goal is to hit the major stats of the individual stats, team stats, try to figure out the ones that made the biggest difference. If there's any big player moments, no, they don't feel like that tonight on Auburn's side, that you want to bring up, talk about a little bit in detail, we can certainly do that too. All that's going to be here in this show. We want to start off the show by encouraging you to make sure you hit the show like button wherever you're watching it, the share button. If you can do that for us, it's a huge help. Always subscribe if you haven't, and follow if you haven't, wherever you're watching or listening as well. That's very helpful for us and for you. And you'll be able to be part of streams like this all season, where we break down Auburn men's basketball game. Hopefully not as, bad as this one this evening. But do all those things for us. Let us know that you're here. And, I don't think we have too many problems with this in basketball, but I think it is a reaction show. When you have a loss like this one, there are obviously overreactions. And I think I would go back to what I said on the Auburn Experience podcast, our main show with Austin, that there shouldn't be too much reading in to what happens in this tournament. It is another good gauge point for where this team potentially could be, but it is not a good showing tonight. Let's just, before we get into the not so fun part about the game, can we acknowledge what we thought was going to be the greatness and the hilariousness of having Bruce Pearl call the game with the staff? They invited him down there to call his son's game. He, right before we ended the broadcast there, said this was miserable in a joking way, obviously, but obviously probably meaning a little bit tongue-in-cheek there, and said that Stephen will never want him to call a game again. And I would also feel the exact same way. Cool way to start off the game. It just didn't go the way we wanted to tonight. Now, I know there's not a desire to do a player of the game, but certainly what we don't want to miss out on are opportunities to talk about individuals, things that they did do well, things they didn't, things that you may want to point out. So do that. We want to take some of your commentary as we can, as appropriate, throughout the stream today. And we got a lot of fine folks that we already see a ton, and some that we don't see as often. I would encourage you, those of you that aren't here as often, it's interesting that you pop up when there's something to complain about. Not when there's something to celebrate. I'm just saying, you can get mad at me for saying it, but it's kind of interesting. Anyway, let's get into it, talk about it a little bit. Individual stats, team stats, the storylines, amongst all of those things tonight. I know there's not a desire to give out the player of the game, but certainly we need to look at who is the top scorers for today. Your starters on the game were Tahad Pettiford, Kevin Overton, Keyshawn Murphy, Elijah Freeman, Keyshawn Hall, and I got them all. I was about to say there shouldn't be a sixth one there. 16 points on the evening for Tahad Pettiford for the second game in a row. He is the leading scorer for the Auburn Tigers, going 4 for 10 from the field today, 4 for 6 from the 3-point arc, 4 for 5 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 3 personal fouls, 1 turnover, 24 minutes of play. Pretty solid stat line for him. It's the best one out of the Auburn Tigers. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing in the world, but where we've seen Tahad take a few more shots in previous games and be very ineffective at times in certain games, he is obviously having a good stretch here on the road. Let's get rid of some ridiculousness in here. That's ridiculous. Okay, got to get rid of some trash in there. Basically, Tahad has had a really great time on the road. It seems like playing at neutral sites. So I saw someone make the joke earlier today that they need to figure out a way to convince him that he's playing at a neutral site or away game every single time. But good to see him playing a lot better on the last couple of games, although we wish we had a little bit more from everybody else out there. It seems like he was a little bit more selective with his shot today. So he's the leading point getter today for the Auburn Tigers. The rest of the team, your next leading scorer right behind him is going to be Keyshawn Hall. No shock there. You're probably going to see that the entire season. You're going to see Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall 1 and 2. Maybe someone else getting in the mix here. Elijah Freeman's done that once or twice. Kevin Overton's been close to that. So is Keyshawn Murphy. So all of your starters have shown the ability to be the leading scorer tonight, or excuse me, this season. But Keyshawn and Tahad Pettiford are going to certainly be the ones that you see there more often than not. Keyshawn Hall, too many Keyshawns. 4 for 11, 1 for 3 from the field. He missed a free throw, which is just weird. And I think even though he's still 6 out of 7 from the free throw line, it's just weird when he misses one. And that was kind of indicative of the night. 5 rebounds for him. No assists, only 2 personal fouls, 2 turnovers for him. So a little bit of a down game by most people's standards for him. And kind of what he's created for himself. So not the best night for him overall. Your next leading scorer, and that's Philip Jovic, I think continues to show flashes of being really, really dynamic in how he can and will play over time. 13 points, 4 for 7 from the field, 5 for 11 from the free throw line. He got to the free throw line a lot tonight, just did not do really well from the free throw line, and probably not. It's not just him. Others as well certainly affected us with our free throw shooting tonight. We're going to get there. It was not good. It was not good. 6 rebounds though. So 13.6 rebounds outside of his free throw shooting. A pretty good night for Philip Jovic. I like, he plays a lot bigger than he seems. I'll be out there. I'll say that when he's out there. There was a time that he was getting mobbed under the basket and just found a way to kind of squeeze out amongst all of them and get a basket. So I'm continuing to be encouraged by what I see out of Philip Jovic. And your last in double digits, Keyshawn Murphy, 5 for 10 from the field. He makes a couple 3-pointers tonight. That's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. And he's shown the ability to shoot beyond the 3-point arc. Bruce said it best, a stretch 5 or stretch 4, whatever you want to call him. He gets 5 rebounds, 1 assist on the day. And so that's your top scores, all in double figures. We'll go through the rest in a little bit on that. So the usual suspects here, right? The ones that are scoring the most, and you're kind of seeing those certain role players fill their roles. A couple of commentary from you here tonight. UM's defense being big really hurt our shots and shot selection. One of the pitfalls to having a small team. I'm going to continue to push back on this narrative that we have in what people consider a small team. You're only small in how you play or how the results show about that. And certainly tonight is one of those nights where that matches up with that narrative. But I just, it's not necessarily that I disagree that we're small. Obviously, if you look comparing heights and stuff, and you're just comparing it to last year as well, you're going to see that. This is not so much a case to me tonight of just because they had the bigger size that they won. They certainly they look good. And I think there's a couple ways I'll try to work it in throughout our conversation here today, but trying to answer the question, like, what was the deal here tonight? Because we saw Auburn take down a Houston team who looks pretty good. Overall, I think they've taken a loss recently, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Maybe I'm mistaken on that. Yeah, I think that's the case. But they looked pretty dang good and took them down to the wire. So I think you can't really dismiss that out of hand. You wonder in game 2 of this 3 days, is, are we tired? Are those injuries kind of helping a little bit with some of the issues? And did you just catch the hottest team in college basketball right now? I mean, did y'all see what Michigan did to San Diego State last night? San Diego State is not what it was a couple of years ago, but it's still not a bad program. There's a reason they got invited here. And they made them look even worse than we did. And we looked pretty dang bad tonight versus that. Unbeaten Lake says a couple of things here. I noticed some players weren't boxing out or just really slow to get to the rebound. So you do wonder, this isn't, when we talk about these different angles about why things happen the way they did, this isn't making an excuse for saying that Michigan didn't deserve this or Auburn just didn't try hard enough or whatever, or in the rebounding maybe. But you just wonder, is there something a little bit to that with playing 2 games back to back? You don't traditionally do that a lot during the season, maybe once in an event like this in the non-conference. Maybe this just wasn't something this team was prepared or ready for, because from the get-go, pretty much, it looked like they were in trouble and never really found their footing. One of the stretches that I saw throughout the game is it seemed like every time that Michigan would get to 11 points, Auburn would make a 3 or a little run there to get it back into single digits, and then they would knock down a 3 to bring it back straight back to 11 points. So it was very frustrating. You can imagine how that wears down on it. Second largest loss to a ranked team in program history. Wow. So that just came across from ESPN, a little bit of history coming up there. If I read that correctly on the fly, the second highest margin of a loss for Auburn to a ranked opponent in program history. Wow. Okay, the rest of the individual stats, so we can keep grinding through this, because this is so fun to talk about right now. Caden Magwood has a pretty good day. 8 points, at least points-wise, 8 for him, 3 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from the three-point arc, 3 rebounds for him in 16 minutes of play. Simon Walker gets a 3 and gets on the board in this game. You've got Kevin Overton and Blake Muselik with 2, continuing to enjoy seeing him get a few minutes. Just some garbage time tonight for him, but he at least continues to contribute. And Sebastian Williams-Adams only has 1 point tonight. He doesn't make any of his stuff from the field, and he played a lot of minutes. When I say this, what I don't want it to come across is me blaming one player, things like that. But you just look at a stat line like that with 1 point. He's playing 20 minutes, and he fouls out. He's got a turnover. In 1 for 5 from the free throw line. There's usually a plus minus thing. You got to wonder, that doesn't help your team a whole lot. That is not a great night for Mr. Sebastian Williams-Adams, but we've seen him do so much better. We know he is capable of so much more. Emeko Porum got in at the end, and so did Bashir, so no points for them. I think we rounded out everybody on the points. One thing that I'm interested in the shock tonight is we haven't seen a game like that for Kevin Overton at all, I think. And I even was talking about him in last game, that he is probably not going to be your leading scorer ever, but he'll be close to that top 3. It seems like probably a good, solid guy to get in the double figures. He's only get 2 points tonight. None of his field goals, only 2 of his free throws, which are his points. So he's 2 for the fact that he missed his free throws, missed all his three-pointers, was not a good night for Kevin. So it's, like I said, we're not picking on Sebastian Sway, I should just say. We're not picking on just him with his stat line. Others tonight just didn't show up and show out in ways that I want to bring this comment up. It's more of a kind of a general thing, but I said this to my wife when I was watching this game. It's the 2018 Clemson tournament game all over again. It's the most frustrating thing when the other team just cannot miss and you can't hit. So there's a combination here, right? There are definite things that we can see Auburn. You're going to see that in the team stats here that Auburn could have done to minimize this, but this team is hot. You got to give credit to Michigan. They get the revenge for that tournament game last year, and they just wiped the floor with Auburn tonight, 102-72. Credit where credit is due. They're just, I'm not going to act like I've sat here and watched the entirety of college basketball all season, but from what I've seen, and Auburn's going to play some of the best and already has, I don't know how Michigan's not already up in the top, top 3, at least, and maybe after their performance in this Players Era tournament so far, they will be. It'll be interesting to see how they do against whoever they're matched up with tomorrow. Okay, so individual stats. If there is a something about a player specifically good or bad that we need to address a little bit more, please do bring it up in the chat, and we will come back to that. Let's talk about the team stats. Oh boy. The big 3. You know where we're starting. Say it with me. Free throws, turnovers, and rebounds. I bet you I know exactly how this is going to look, but let's find out. I can't even say it. I can't even. Free throw percentage, 82 for Michigan. That's what good teams do. 55% for Auburn basketball tonight. 55%. I'll come back to that. The rest of the big 3. Turnovers. Auburn actually wins this by 1, and I felt like there were a few more turnovers in this, but 8-9. So they got 1 in the win column, but really not a margin or differential there that makes that big a difference to negate that last one. Rebounds, you've got total rebounds 35-51 in Michigan's favor, so pretty significant differential there as well. Makes a lot of sense when you see not just a differential in those 2 categories, but just the abysmal nature of Auburn's free throws. We may not have to look that much further. That's awful. Folks, I know that I have a very high standard for free throws. 80% is I call it the high water mark, but it's what I believe college athletes should be able to do, and that includes the wholeness of the team, because this is a team stat after all. 13 for 33 ain't gonna cut it. 55%. That will lose you basketball games. Now, look, let's say Auburn makes 10 more of them, then they're probably in that 80% mark. They shot a lot of free throws tonight compared to Michigan too. So they were getting to the basket, just weren't able to make a lot of them. But you just wonder, in those key moments, you get the opportunity to go to the 3-point line. The free throw line, and these free points where they're surging. What could that have done to kind of stifle them a little bit? I don't know. Devin asked probably the question that everybody is. Why are the Auburn teams just so bad at free throws? What is the problem? It's not really something we can answer without being there at practice, because it's not like they don't see it, right? It's one of the mysteries that we'll never be able to understand. And to be fair, let me just clarify your statement there a little bit. They're not so bad at free throws. Now you're just kind of talking about some of the times it's felt like that across a couple of years, maybe compared to others. Because last game they had 82%, I think is what it was. And they've been pretty close to 80%. I think like usually they're in like 75, 76. They've had like a 72% or something like that. This one, so bad, just awful, disgusting, awful. Turnovers, like I said, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it is, but Auburn actually wins that one. Rebounds is about what you expected it to be. You're probably going to look at some of these related ones and see that they are, going to tell the tape a little bit there. Okay, let's keep talking about some of this stuff from the team stats, which is just fun to see if anything else sticks out to us. Michigan shot 51% from the field today, 40% from the 3-point arc, which was killing Auburn earlier in the game. But the ironic thing is Auburn shoots better from the 3-point arc with less attempts. I grant you that. So 42% for them, but 35% from the field. There have been worse days shooting the basketball. Really, this game came down to some desire, defense, things like that. I think you make some free throws, you have a little bit stronger desire down there for some things like that, you might have a little bit different of a situation. I still think Michigan, based off what we've seen, not just in this game, but the other game too, and so far in their season, they're one of the best. But that's kind of starting to shape the narrative here a little bit. Let's keep marching on here. See what else we can find out that's so joyous from this. Points off of turnovers, not a big differential, but in Michigan's favor. Second chance points, 13-24 in Michigan's favor. That's pretty decent there. Bench points, 27-47 in Michigan's favor. No surprise. Points in the paint, 20-38, Michigan's favor. I think we found it, folks. I think we found it. Fast break points, 3 for 29. That free throw percentage is pretty bad. But if you're scoring 29 fast break points to their 3, you are going to demoralize a team. And that's 30 points right there. It's 29, but essentially that's the margin of defeat right there. Pretty interesting to look at that and see. Blocks in their favor, 3-5. Steals in their favor, 4-7. Assist, pretty good here as well, 3-19. It didn't look like Auburn was sharing the ball that well based off the stats. So up and down, all of the team stats here, everything that you're seeing shows you Michigan just dominated. Auburn won the turnover margin by 1, the 3-point percentage by 2%, where both teams were shooting it pretty well. And that's it, right? I'm looking to make sure there's nothing else that Auburn led in team stat wise, and that tells you exactly that. To me, the biggest stat is that right now, other than that abysmal free throw percentage, is that fast break differential, 3-29. Only one lead change, only tied for 18 minutes. This was Michigan's games from the get-go. Here's how it broke down by half to 31-59 going into halftime, 41-43 in the second half. So I guess you can count that for a little bit better. Still very little defense. Played 72-102 as your final score. All right, let's be done with that, and we'll come back to some of your commentary, things that you brought up. So drop them in the chat if there's anything that you want to talk about. We'll do a little bit of future thinking as well. I want to remind you of a couple things that we've got going on as we continue in a very busy week for Auburn content, sports and otherwise. Reminders, there is one more game in this particular tournament that Auburn will play in. To my knowledge, as of doing this stream on a Tuesday night right after the game, I have not heard anything. Of course, I've been here live with you guys, so I don't know who we're playing. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We got a little bit of a challenge, a couple different ways here. I will do my best to have a post-game show and or an Auburn family night. I have no clue how that's going to work out because we don't know game time, things like that, unless they announce it while we're live here. And I still have some schedule stuff that I've got to work out as well. So all of that is going to be by ear and maybe even like a game time announcement. We usually do the Auburn family nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. The post-game shows are usually right after. It will really just be dependent upon when the game is and that kind of stuff. We'll do our best to get those out for you. Keep in mind, I will be in Auburn this weekend for the Iron Bowl, and at this moment, I do believe I will be in the game. I do not physically have access to the ticket yet, but once I have it, I will feel secure in that. But either way, I will be on campus for all kinds of content for the Iron Bowl. I hope you guys are going to follow along for that post-game show from the mobile broadcast studio, live stream of Tiger Walk, and so much more. Make sure you're following. It's going to be a good time for that. Okay. Rhyming Lemon. What about the flop to free throw percentage? You're comparing flopping to free throw percentage? Is that what you're saying? Or are you just calling the free throw percentage a flop? Because, that was bad. That was bad. This is from Fielder's Choice. If I remember correctly, we had a shooting coach that got caught up in a scandal years back, and we haven't had that many shooters since. If I'm wrong, I'll wear it. I think you're talking about, I don't know if he was the shooting coach or anything like that, but it sounds like you're trying to attribute some of that to it. But it's not necessarily something that I would attribute to this right now, but maybe it's kind of the same thing in Auburn football. Ever since that one point in time where something went wrong, it's never been the same since. We've shot just fine since that happened, I would believe. This is WT says players don't focus on free throws because they don't get to press being a great free throw shooter. You get it on offense. I think that's a stereotype a little bit, but certainly that could be the case with some people. There are a lot of people that pride themselves on free throws. Look, you can be an absolutely great free throw shooter, but just be in a slump. But the point still remains of what we talked about this evening. 55% from the free throw line cannot happen. If that happens, you can win the other two big three categories, and it ain't going to matter. That will lose you games and championships. Is absolutely disgusting. Only matched by the the fast break points differential 3-29. All right, so rounding it out, because I know this isn't everyone's favorite one to do. Keep in mind, it'll be a play it by ear for the content tomorrow, whether a post-game show and or a Auburn family night. Rounding it out for you, Michigan 102, Auburn 72. The Auburn Tigers fall in game 2 of the Players Era tournament in embarrassing fashion. Not good. You do not want to be that person in there at this. You do not want to be in that locker room, I would imagine, after some of the things that were said in there. I've had a few chewings out like that. No really players of the game that anybody wanted to shout out, but certainly Tahad Pettifer with 16 points led the way again. So 2 games in a row, he's kind of gotten back to being that primary guy for Auburn. And that big stat, you can point at the free throw percentage. It is awful, but to me, that differential of 3-29 in the fast break points is pretty much the margin of defeat there. Hey, chuck this one out, learn from it, and figure out how you can grow from this. They made a great point on the broadcast tonight that Houston last year had some pretty bad losses. And it was actually here in Houston, maybe not bad, but some losses here in the Players Era tournament. They kind of took that one, figured it out, what they did wrong, and got onto a little roll there that took them all the way to the championship game and nearly beating the Florida Gators. So not saying that'll be the same story for Auburn, but you've seen it done before. Figure out what happened and make it right. Start with those free throws, though. I think we all can agree with that one. With that in mind, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this evening and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And as we go, I want to remind you, the Auburn Creed asks you to do these things: do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. War Eagle.